Sean Mullin. I'm a teacher and a member of the INTO Palestine Ambassadors Group, the activist group Teachers for Palestine as well. I spent 3 months in the West Bank in 2011 as a human rights observer. I made friends with Palestinians, I made friends with Israelis. For the last number of years, my colleagues and I have been working within our union to create solidarity with the Palestinian people. Prior to October the 7th, the need to highlight the conditions of apartheid under which Palestinians lived was great. Anyone with eyes in their head who walked the streets of Hebron or visited refugees in Gaza could clearly see that the system of openly racist discriminatory controls that one rich, highly militarised society imposed upon another was unsustainable and completely wrong. Through this work, we made contact with Palestinians. I want now to read you some of the correspondence we've received in the last few months. First of all, from Yara Saba, a 16-year-old student who visited Ireland from Gaza in 2022 with a school's drama project organised by INTO members and a charity called the Hands Up Project. I met Yara in Belfast. She and her friends, Malik and Rahaf, and you can see them here in my t-shirt, she and her friends were glowing with hope and optimism, having just had one of the greatest experiences of their lives. Little over 2 years later, during the dark and bloody days of winter, she wrote to her friends in Ireland from a soaking, waterlogged refugee camp in Rafah, and she said, "I don't know if I've lost my memory, or am I forcing myself to forget? I don't remember how many times our beds sank due to the heavy rains in this war. I don't know how many times we fell asleep dreaming of a loaf of bread to satisfy our hunger. I don't know how many times we fled under the sounds of frightening bombing to search for a safe place. I do not remember how many screams and cries I heard over the loss of loved ones. I don't remember ever seeing anyone smile in 6 months. All I remember is that the most beautiful days of my life were before October the 7th. I wish time would stop for me on the night of the 6th of that month." That's from Yara, a young woman in the prime of her life. And now from Mohammed and Isa. I got to know Mohammed Al-Azami through Teachers for Palestine. He is currently teaching out of a tent in Rafah while trying to find food to keep his family alive. He connects his students to the outside world through a social media page. On it, there are videos of indiscriminate assassinations of civilians in Gaza. There are pictures of decomposed bodies being pulled from the rubble. There are petitions for peace. There are pleas for someone, anyone, to help them. There is anger, there is fear, and there is also poetry and art and pictures of meals together with family, with ingredients cobbled together from the bare minimum, bread made of ground up animal feed, and children somehow smiling for the camera. The other night, one of his students, a boy called Isa Shaheen, wrote this: "I will continue to search in language dictionaries, between letters and between words, until I describe to you the war and how terrifying it is. But I assure you that I will not succeed in that, no matter how much I search and no matter what I do. War, horror and destruction have exceeded the standards of habit and nature and have become indescribable and irreversible. And I count the nights, night after night, hoping that this terrifying nightmare that befell us will end, and that my soul is crying for the people who died and left us and is still crying. So when will this nightmare stop?" Mohammed himself waits now in Rafah for the assault Israel insists will go ahead. He knows that there is every chance he will not survive it. Every day he still teaches. Every day he keeps in touch with his students, trying through the horror of what is happening to keep their spirits up. These are stories from normal people like you and me, and they are lucky. They are not waking up to find their legs amputated. They are not buried under the rubble of a makeshift pier built by psychopaths. They are still breathing. They are with us. We can access them with a touch of our fingers. There used to be a time when crimes against humanity could be buried from view. That time is no longer, and a reckoning is coming. We stand here heart-sore, grieving and gaslit, but we are not broken. We cannot be. Our friends in Gaza are not broken, so why should we be? We are not distracted by confected shrieks of false victimhood. Our belief in the illegality of this and complete moral depravity of this vengeful slaughter is not dimmed by falsehoods. We are not conned. We are not losing interest. And we are not going to go away. The actions of Israel in Gaza and the West Bank are the product of an insanity born of delusion. Zionism has become an ideology hopelessly wedded to absurdity. Zionism was supposed to provide an oppressed people shelter from cruelty and ignorance. Now it has come to believe that the only oppression that matters is the oppression that Zionists themselves perceive. To current Zionist logic, even the memory of the Holocaust, that definitive act of man's inhumanity towards man, is an emotional propagandistic tool to be used to aid the continuation of war crimes. Israel's leadership has become an insult to Judaism, an insult to humanity. In the wake of the greatest loss of Jewish life in a single day since the Holocaust, the first instinct of Israeli politicians and the military was to lie about it, to exaggerate the numbers of children who died, to lie about how they died. Yet when the evidence clearly shows that over 4,000 children and babies under 4 years old are killed by bombs, by snipers, by hunger, disease, by fear, Zionist tells us not to believe Hamas. Zionism has lost its mind, and the ugly racism that always existed in Israel since its foundation, this base resentment directed towards Palestinians for merely existing, is now what defines Zionism in the eyes of the world. This May Day, all over the world, workers will unite in opposition to the American-sponsored, EU-sponsored, British government-sponsored and Irish government-facilitated genocide in Gaza. We do so because this genocide and how international law reacts to it is likely to be one of the defining issues of our time. We are at a terrifying juncture in our history, and just as our friends in Gaza keep breathing, we must keep fighting. If you work in the public sector, you must insist that your workplace is not contaminated by products sold by companies who have any association with the genocidal Israeli army. It is your right to insist. Your freedom of conscience is written into the laws that govern from whom tax-funded public bodies obtain their products to run their businesses and organise their workplaces. Write emails to your managers, to the authorities that govern your workplace, and to our government ministries, north and south, insisting on ethical procurement. If it's good enough for Derry City Council, it should be good enough for the rest of the country as well. If you're a teacher, a student, a parent of school-aged children, a governor, a principal, be aware that classrooms all over the country are currently engaging in the Let's Talk About Palestine fortnight. Our children are showing solidarity with Palestinians and celebrating Palestinian culture. Join us. Visit the Teachers for Palestine Instagram page and bio site, where guidelines and resources are there ready to use. Let's keep talking about Palestine. And to our union leaders, there's many good intentions among our union leaders and much good work that has been done to date. More work needs to be done, and quicker. Above all, don't give up, don't get disheartened, don't lose hope. Don't be cowed, don't be fooled, don't be made confused by the demented bleatings of the Israeli propaganda machine and its depraved supporters at home and abroad. Don't watch the Eurovision Song Contest, it's shite anyway. Remember, resistance is accumulation. Every small act you take towards ending this barbarity will tell in the fullness of time. There are billions of us, and we are all Palestinians. Thank you.